My name is Marcus Hale, and I died on the 17th of September, 2007. That's the day everything changed, not just for me, but for how I now see the world, time, faith, and the future of humanity. I wasn't in a hospital. I wasn't on a battlefield. I wasn't even doing anything that risky. I was just cleaning out my gutters. It had rained the night before, and the leaves from the oak trees in my yard were clogging everything up. I didn't want to wait for the weekend, so I grabbed my gloves, propped the ladder up against the house, and went to work like I'd done a dozen times before. What I didn't know was that one of the rungs on that ladder had rusted through underneath. I stepped onto it without thinking. The metal gave way and I slipped. I didn't even have time to yell. I hit the concrete head first. I heard the sound of my skull cracking before I blacked out. My wife, Clara, was in the kitchen and heard the crash. My daughter, Abby, was home from college that weekend, and she ran out when she heard Clara scream. The next thing I remember, well, I wasn't even in my body anymore. I know how that sounds. I know if someone had told me this exact story before that day, I would have looked at them sideways. But I swear to you, what I'm about to tell you is exactly what I saw, exactly what I felt, and exactly what I believe I was meant to share. When I left my body, it didn't feel violent or dramatic. It was like slipping out of a tight shirt, like a release. I was floating above the driveway, looking down at my own broken form. Blood pooled beneath my head. My leg was twisted at a sickening angle. I watched Clara kneel beside me, sobbing, and Abby fumble with her phone, try to call 911 while shaking so badly she dropped it twice. I could see everything at once, not just what was happening, but what they were feeling. The raw panic, the desperation, the helplessness. But me, I felt peace, a silence unlike anything I've known. Not emptiness, more like fullness, like all the noise of life, the stress and pain and worry, had been switched off. And then there was light. A tunnel, yes, but not like the cliche you see in movies. This was vast and alive and humming with sound, not music in the way we hear on Earth, but a chorus. Millions of voices singing in perfect harmony, not with words, but with emotion. Praise, love, joy. A sound you don't just hear, you feel in your bones, or whatever part of me still existed. I moved toward the light, not walking, not floating exactly, but being drawn forward like I was weightless and anchored at the same time. I should have been afraid, but I wasn't. Everything felt familiar, like I was returning somewhere I had always belonged but had somehow forgotten. And then I wasn't alone anymore. The light took shape into a man. I didn't need anyone to tell me who he was. I knew, every cell of me knew, it was Jesus, but not the Sunday school version I grew up with, not the gentle shepherd holding a lamb. This Jesus was power and love and authority in one. He wasn't frightening, but he was overwhelming. Standing in front of him, I saw everything about myself clearly. All my failures, all my selfishness, all the times I could have been kinder, more patient, more faithful, and yet he loved me anyway. He didn't speak with his mouth, but I heard him, not just with my ears, but inside me. He communicated in a way that made language seem primitive. It was like every question I'd ever had, every fear I carried, was answered instantly just by being near him. And then he showed me something I'll never forget. He said, without words, "There's something you need to see." Suddenly, I was standing somewhere else, but I was still with him. I was shown the earth, not as it was, but as it would be. I didn't know the year at first, but later I understood. It was 2047, and the years surrounding it. What I saw was devastating. I saw cities I recognized, but they were broken. Phoenix was a barren, scorched place. What was once a vibrant desert city had become a ghost town. Houses empty, roads cracked, the air shimmered with heat, and not a single tree remained. People who couldn't afford to leave had moved underground or simply died off. The wealthy had relocated into something Jesus called water estates, man-made shelters built deep in the mountains where access to water had been hoarded and sold like gold. I was taken next to Las Vegas. There were no flashing lights. The casinos were gutted. Everything was sand and silence. I saw children digging for scrap metal in what used to be the Bellagio. Families lived in makeshift domes powered by stolen solar panels. The separation between rich and poor was not just economic. It was survival. There were no governments, only factions. No systems, just barter and blood and fear. In Miami, water covered entire neighborhoods. Buildings stood half-submerged in green, chemical-laced sludge. I saw kids swimming in it like it was normal. Rooftops had become homes. Everything below the second floor was disease-ridden. People lived with masks permanently on their faces. Boats floated between skyscrapers, tied old street signs sticking out of the water. Jesus showed me New York, specifically Manhattan. Giant seawalls had been built, but they hadn't held. The subways were flooded. The streets were elevated with scaffolding. People walking above a lower level that had become a breeding ground for disease. It looked like a city stacked on top of another city's corpse. People wore boots that filtered water from the ground as they walked. Others carried rats. Yes, rats, as pets and sources of food. I wanted to look away, but I couldn't. It was like I was being shown a warning, not a punishment. A map, not a death sentence. Then I saw something surprising. The Great Lakes region, what used to be called the Rust Belt, had become something new. Detroit, Cleveland, Milwaukee, these cities were thriving, not in the old sense, with skyscrapers and shopping malls, but in a sustainable way. Rooftop gardens stretched for miles. Families worked together. Children were learning how to grow food, clean water, harness solar energy. Everyone contributed. No one was above the other. There was a spiritual shift too. Churches were still there, but they had changed. They weren't buildings with stages. They were communities. Muslims, Christians, Jews, and people of other faiths gathered together to pray, to share, to survive. Religion had evolved, not replaced, but refined. The arguments had faded. What mattered was love, unity, stewardship, protecting what was left of the planet and one another. I saw rewilding projects where extinct animals were being brought back through science, genetic archives that resurrected species long gone. But not everyone was on board. There were still those clinging to power, trying to build walls, hoard food, divide people. But even they began to crumble when they realized isolation was a death sentence. No one could survive alone anymore, not even the rich. And as I watched all of this, I asked Jesus, again, not with words, but with my soul, why are you showing me this? He turned to me, and for the first time in a vision, I saw sadness in his eyes. He said, because you still have time, and they do too. Jesus looked at me with his mix of sorrow and hope. I felt the weight of it in my chest, like his heart was breaking for what humanity was becoming, but also yearning for us to choose a different path. Then he said something I'll never forget. He said, you have work to do. There are people you need to reach, truth you need to tell. And just like that, the light started fading. The sound of that divine harmony quieted into the background, and I felt myself being pulled backward, away from that place of perfect peace and knowledge. I didn't want to go. Every fiber of me longed to stay, not because I feared returning, but because I felt complete there. But it wasn't up to me. As I left, Jesus said one last thing, his voice like thunder and whisper all at once. Tell them, time is shorter than they think. That was the final message before my eyes opened in the ambulance. When I came to, I couldn't breathe. Pain flooded every part of my body. I was strapped down, neck braced tight, flashing lights above me, paramedics shouting to each other. The siren howled in the background. One of them looked down at me and yelled, "He's awake." Then someone else said, "No pulse for 3 minutes and 40 seconds. He's lucky to be alive." But I didn't feel lucky. I felt overwhelmed. I wanted to scream what I saw. I wanted to tell them we had to change, that we had to do something now. But I couldn't even speak. The pain, the shock, it was all too much. I spent the next month in the hospital. Skull fracture, shattered tailbone, my right leg broken in 3 places, surgeries, metal rods, blood transfusions. It was a mess. The doctors said I was fortunate to survive a fall like that. They called it a miracle. But what they didn't know was that the real miracle wasn't that I survived. It was what I saw while I was gone. When I was finally home, I couldn't keep it to myself. I started writing everything down, every image, every word, every detail of what I saw. I filled journals with notes, drawings, descriptions. I sent letters to newspapers, magazines, climate researchers. I emailed think tanks, universities. I tried to talk to environmental organizations, even church leaders. Most ignored me. A few politely replied, assuming I was exaggerating or mentally unstable. I even reached out to a state senator's office. I never heard back. People don't want to hear about the end. Not when it comes in pictures that sound like science fiction or revelation at the same time. Even some of my own friends said I must have been hallucinating. My brother, who I've been close to since we were kids, stopped talking to me completely. He told me I needed therapy, not prophecy. But I couldn't stop. I knew what I saw. I knew it was real. And if I stayed silent, I'd be betraying what Jesus told me. So I changed my life instead, not just in words, but in everything I did. I stopped wasting time on arguments and ego. I quit my job 6 months after I recovered. I took a lower paying position at a nonprofit focused on sustainable farming. I started volunteering at a shelter downtown, helping folks who had lost everything. I gave away half my wardrobe. I learned to grow my own food, taught my neighbors to do the same. And something strange began to happen. Moments would come over me, these flashes of insight, not visions like the one I had before, but strong senses of knowing. Like one morning in 2009, I was walking across a bridge and suddenly felt this heaviness in my chest. I looked over and saw a woman leaning against a railing, tears streaming down her face. I didn't hesitate. I walked over, gently touched her arm, and said, "You're not supposed to go. You still have something beautiful to give." She broke. She collapsed into me, sobbing. That woman is now a counselor. She helps others find reasons to live. I started recognizing these moments more often, nudges to help, to speak, to stop what I was doing and just be there for someone. It wasn't about being some spiritual guru. I wasn't trying to play prophet. I was just trying to be obedient to the calling I had been given. I also stopped living with so much anger. I used to curse at traffic like it was a sport. I used to measure my worth by promotions, titles, bank balances. Now, I measure by something much simpler. How many people I can love, how much of the earth I can help protect, and whether or not I'm listening when the Spirit nudges me to act. And you know what? My faith completely changed. I don't go to church just to check a box. I go because I hunger for connection with God, with people, with truth. I read scripture now not to be right, but to understand. And I see it all differently. Like the parts one used to skim over suddenly came to life. When Jesus talked about the poor, the hurting, the least of these, I see them. I see that they are not a burden on society. They are the very heart of God. People sometimes ask if I think the future I saw is locked in stone. The answer is no. Jesus made that clear. What I saw was a possible future, a direction we're heading, yes, but one we still have the power to change. That's why I was sent back. Not to frighten people, but to awaken them. The truth is, we are running out of time. The decisions we make right now, what we build, what we destroy, how we treat each other, those choices are shaping the decades ahead, not just environmentally, but spiritually. Every act of kindness creates a ripple. Every act of cruelty does too. Nothing is wasted. Nothing is hidden. I died for 3 minutes and 42 seconds. And in that time, I saw more than I ever thought possible. I saw Earth's future. I saw what happens when we worship profit over people, comfort over community. But I also saw what happens when we turn toward each other, when we say, enough, when we build and grow and love together. The road is hard, the collapse is painful, but it doesn't have to be the end. It can be the beginning. So, if you're watching this or listening right now, I'm not asking you to believe me just because I said it. I'm asking you to listen to that small voice inside you, that tug you've been ignoring, the one that says the world can't keep going like this. That feeling you get when you look at the chaos and wonder, is there more? Yes, there is. There is more. And it starts with you, with how you live, with how you treat people, with how you love, we can still change what's coming. We can still become the kind of people Jesus hoped we'd be. But we can't wait, because time is running out. If this story stirred something in you, don't let it fade. You were meant to hear this for a reason. Share this message. Talk about it. Pray about it. Ask God what your role is in the days to come. You're not here by accident. Your choices matter. Your life matters. Your faith matters. And together, we can build something better. Drop a comment below, subscribe to the channel, and share this with someone who needs hope today. Because the future isn't just coming, we're writing it right now.